Hello, everybody. Welcome to another OwnerRez. We used to call these the Q&A webinar, but we kind of rebranded it now to OwnerRez Live. So we wanted to expand beyond just the traditional, questions and answers, and also show you some new features we've added recently, give you some more tips and tricks, and just make this time even more useful than maybe it was before. So really appreciate you taking time on a Friday to come join me and listen to me talk. um, I already loaded up all the questions you guys asked when you registered. Unless you just registered in the last hour, I didn't get to update it. I apologize. So if I missed your question or just as I talk, you come up with a new question you want to ask, there is a Q&A section. All you have to do is, go over to the chat or whatever, and you can type it in. I think there's even it will say pose this as a question, and you can put that in the Q&A. Zach Arnold from our marketing team is in the audience. He just said hello to everybody. So he is going to be kind of monitoring those for me and probably answer some questions along the way, maybe give us some links to cool stuff. So yeah, don't feel like, just sit back, relax, listen. You don't have to take notes fast and furious because this is recorded. It will be up on our webinars page for everybody to see. And Zach will shoot you all an email here later with the recording. So anyways, with that being said, let me go ahead and share my screen here. And for those, I don't think I introduced myself. I introduced Zach, but my name is Steve Clark. I'm the Director of Customer Success. I just see some of the names over here that I recognize, so I guess I just take for granted that you guys know who I am. But not everybody has been to these before, so if you are new, welcome. Appreciate you coming. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it here. So I will stop sharing. You guys don't need to see me. Okay. So you should just be seeing the slideshow now. Right, Zach? We're good to go. All right. So what's new in OwnerRez? First thing I wanted to talk about. And this is kind of a sneak peek because product just gave me the update. Where this product update is going out Tuesday. And so it's not even published yet. So you guys, by attending this, are kind of getting a sneak peek. But this is just an example of a blog post that we put out at least once a month. So definitely when you get this, check this, read through it. A lot of cool things that we worked on in August. So, but like I said, the ones I want to highlight, Airbnb seamless entry. This is a way to automatically provide Airbnb guests with the backup door codes if their original code fails, making sure that nobody's stuck, like sitting on your doorstep without a code. And if we want to take a look at that real quick, I just Ann on our documentation team does a great job at updating all this for us. But yeah, there's going to be a new way. Well, it's already out, I believe. So you can go in your guest instructions and put in backup codes, and it will basically say if the main code you had didn't work, they can use one of these codes. This is an opt-in; it's not automatic, but you can opt in per property to provide this information. So pretty cool. Definitely, when this update comes out, you can read more about it in the product update. Oops, where did my product update go? There we go. So that's one of the exciting new things we've done on Airbnb. Snippets, and I know somebody had a question about snippets, so I'm going to cover that. And I'm also, for our tips and tricks, I think I'm going to go over snippets because it's a pretty powerful new feature that's really cool. And I apologize, my phone is ringing here. I don't know why it won't stop. Anyways, hopefully you guys don't hear that. Anyways, snippets. Basically, long story short, and I'll talk about this more in a minute, so I don't want to go too much here, but before you had to create a template for 3 different things, right? You had to create a template for email, a template for SMS, a template for channels, and templates are not going away. That's a question we got too, so I will cover that. Templates are still going to be here, but snippets are kind of like an exciting new thing that basically, if you just have a short answer you want to send to somebody, you can create a snippet and you can send that regardless of whether it's an email, a channel, or whatever. So it's just another way to help you more quickly communicate with your guests. And so it's a really cool feature. So I'm going to show you that as well. And, for all those that say, well, I already have all these in templates. I have 500 templates that have short little answers to my FAQs and whatever. We've provided a way to import those in the snippets if you'd prefer to use the snippets over a template. So, but I'll go over that in more detail in a little bit. Marriott, one of the things you guys have been asking for forever, so we finally got our connection to Marriott. It's been through beta testing, and it is now in general availability. We call it GA or wide release. So anybody that wants to can apply to join Marriott. Now, just realize they do have pretty strict limits, right? So, and they're always changing the fence post on us, but so I don't know the exact minimum properties. I want to say 10, but don't hold me to that. It might be more. But even if you do meet the minimum, let's say you have 10 properties, they actually vet those and look at those and say, are these luxury? Are they what they consider luxury, right? And they might not accept your portfolio to be included on their channel. So they're very restrictive, very like I said, they're going to just vet your properties and make sure that you're a fit for them. So I know that's not great news for everybody, but that's just how they do business. So, and I see that Zach just put the article about that. So go ahead and check that out. I mean, obviously, before you set it up in OwnerRez, you need to go through a process with Marriott and submit your portfolio to them, and they'll decide whether they're going to give you an ID that allows you to further connect it with OwnerRez. So anyways, read that article. Zach put that in the chat for me, so I appreciate that. So it's limited to property managers, owners of 10 plus properties in varied locations. Okay, yeah, I thought it was 10, but like I said, I didn't know they've changed the fence post on us all the time, it seems like. So, and I mean, the news to realize there is, yeah, they're 10 today. A year ago, they were 50, and they've moved down to 10. When we first started connecting to Verbo had a limit that you had to have 5 properties to API Connect. You couldn't do it with 1 property. Eventually, Verbo realized, the error in that, and now they allow just a single property. So, Marriott, they're going to want more inventory. They're going to want more and more. So even though it's 10 today, keep an eye on it. Who knows? Who knows what will change with them? So, Airbnb cancellations are something new we've added. So before, for those of you that have been with us a while, if somebody wanted to cancel their connection, we didn't have an API to do that. So you had to log into Airbnb and make the cancellation there, and then adjust it in OwnerRez or whatever. Well, now we've connected the API, so you can cancel that Airbnb booking right in OwnerRez, and it will pass through to Airbnb properly and all of that. So that's exciting. Booking.com, we've been working hard at improving the API with them, so there's always some new things happening. So the product update, let me just double check that again, because so, this was, some of the guest communication. Oh, wait, that's not Booking.com. Sorry, that was just in general quote communication. But they pull this back up. Apologize. Where's Booking.com? That property profile. This is what I want to talk about. So, now you can set whether it's managed on the channel or if it's managed in OwnerRez. You can set a welcome message, some of the basic information about your neighborhood info and owner info. All of this you can be set in OwnerRez, and it will push over to Booking.com. Now, Booking.com overall, even though we're pushing your property description and stuff like that, they use an AI to make the actual listing. But these are some things that you can control. And this can be controlled right in OwnerRez right now. So that's, an exciting little change. The more control you have outside the platform, the better, I believe. So that's something new. And then this might not affect a lot of you if you're already using OwnerRez, but, over the years, one of the things was, man, OwnerRez is great. It does all these things, but it's hard to set up, right? And we had this old wizard that was developed 15 years ago, and it hadn't really changed much. So we have a brand new step-by-step experience when a new customer is coming in. So I talked about that last time a little bit. Is coming soon, but it is now. We've gone through testing, and that's now every new account will be going through this setup wizard. So if you are somebody that recommends OwnerRez to somebody else, or you're telling a friend or family member to start with OwnerRez, just realize we're making it easier for them to get started. So that's super exciting, especially for all of us internally. We're stoked about that. So anyway, that's just a few things. Like I said, Tuesday, the product update's going out. Make sure you check that blog post, take a look at it, and there'll be even more in that. But so anyways, getting into your questions. So these are the questions that you asked about. So Nicola says, can direct website bookings communicate through the inbox? Or I think her question when I actually read it was, it would be great if we could do that. And believe me, we all agree on that. We want, right now, the only real communications with direct bookings, well, there's two, are email, and we do have an SMS product. So I guess the question, can they communicate? Yes, via SMS. If you turn on the OwnerRez SMS product, which costs $15 per month for your entire account, it's not per property, $15 per month, you get 500 outbound message segments because you can control what's going out, right? You get that included in the $15. If you go over that, it's 1.5 cents a segment. So, I always tell people when you're developing an SMS communication strategy, I still like to send the bulk out via email, right? Because it can be more robust. It can have pictures and photos and PDFs and all this other information. But then my templates that I send out for email are just very short and directed. Hey, I sent you some check-in instructions via email. Go check that out. And if you have any questions, let's chat here. So the SMS really becomes messaging, and the email becomes a information delivery system, kind of two different functions. But I think the real question here is they want emails to come in the inbox, and it's a big ask. A lot of people have asked that. I mean, just to give you some history, why we've never done it in the past was we just, years ago, the thought was we want to do what we can do very well, which is channel management. That's our key thing we wanted OwnerRez to do, handle the booking process, handle all of that. Something like email, Gmail, Outlook, Thunderbird back in the day, these email programs have spent millions of dollars to do all the things email does. And I know we take it for granted and we think, oh, email's simple. It's no big deal. It is a big deal under the covers. How do you handle spam? How do you handle, all our messaging is tied to a booking, right? What happens if you get an email that comes in that has nothing to do with the booking? Where do we put that? What do you do with that, right? So this is a large undertaking, but it is one we are starting to take on. So just FYI, I mean, the initial architecture has been done to bring emails in. But like I said, it's a huge undertaking. So I'm really hoping, middle of next year, we'll have that. If you guys have been listening to me a lot, I did say, I think in the past I had said I hope by the end of this year, but there's been some setbacks and new things we're learning. So I do think that's a longer, roadmap item. So, but can you communicate with direct bookings? Yes, through SMS. That's going to be your way. So Zach, I don't know if you can put a link to setting up SMS and how that works. That would be something to look at. All right, Megan asks, what is the best strategy for customizing system templates? So, I mean, if you're talking explicitly about system templates, I mean, my recommendation, don't touch them. That would be my strategy. I mean, when we're talking really about system messages, these are all things that, after doing this for close to 15 years, we've determined that these are all messages that should be sent to your guests for various reasons. Now, they don't get, I know you look through here and you go, man, these are a ton. You're telling me my guest is getting every one of these things? No, they're not. I mean, some of these things you see it says sent when, they don't even have a trigger. Like, so this is never automatically being sent through an agreement form, but this is in here as a system message because when you go to bookings and then legal and you say send renter agreement form to guest, this is the templates that it's going to use. It's going to say, hey, Bob, I noticed that you haven't signed a rental agreement form yet. Please click on this link, blah, 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 blah. And it's going to pull in the theme and all of that. That's how a system message works. Now, if you didn't like how that reads, our default, you can come in here and you can say change the message. Or if you've already created a template, you can pick an existing template to use for this message. But I mean, truthfully, I mean, we have over 8,000 clients. The large lion's share of them do not touch these. I mean, they are what they are, and they work very well. Obviously, when people come in and ask, "Hey, this doesn't read right," or "Could we change this?" I mean, we take that to heart, and we've tweaked these over the years. So, I mean, personally, if you ask my strategy, I wouldn't mess with most of these. But OwnerRez, we never like to tell you exactly how to run your business. So, I mean, it's up to you. The settings are here. You can come in, you can turn off any of the system messages you don't want to send. So here, this confirmation is sent to the guest when the booking's created. If I preview that, it's just a, hey, you successfully booked, blah, 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 blah. If you don't want this one sent, you could disable it. And then maybe you could create your own template and your own trigger as to when it sends. Or, like I said, maybe I definitely want a confirmation sent, but I want to pretty it up. I could come in here and say change message, and it's going to pull in the default, and then I can edit this and I can make it prettier and do whatever I want. So specifically with system messages, that's my advice. Okay. PMF, why are standard templates going away? And I know this is around the snippets. I think in the first look video, it said that, in the inbox, the template button eventually is going to go away. So down here, right, we've added now, you can apply templates. That's always been here, this one. But we added this insert snippet field, right? So eventually, snippets are going to be the way to do things in in the inbox, and templates in the inbox are going to go away. But templates as a whole are not going away. Templates are still what's going to be triggered to send to, based on certain times. You're still going to be able to go into a booking if you want. Like if I was in this booking and I wanted to email the guest, I can choose a one-off email here and I could switch to my template. These templates are not going away. But the theory here, and I'll show you when I show templates here in a little bit more, though, that a template is bigger. It's a lot of information. It's all this good stuff, whereas a snippet is just short. The other point I would make is templates, when you, especially in an inbox, when you add a template, it overrides everything in that compose field. It inserts the whole template. Whereas snippets are going to be additive, right? So I could have, and I haven't created it yet because this is my demo account, so I'm going to show you in the next section that I show you. But you could create a snippet that says greeting, and then I could create a snippet that says where my trash is located or whatever, right? So if somebody asks, hey, where do I take out the trash? You can put a snippet /greeting, it puts that, and then /trash and then /close or whatever, so you could have different snippets for different things. So that's the reason. And why is it going away, this button? I mean, really it's just for user adoption. I think we find that if we give too many options, nobody's going to use snippets, and they are a very powerful thing. The templates are confusing to people too, in that you have to create one for each type of, whether it's SMS, email, or whatever. So the snippets, like I said, can be used no matter what. So the snippets are to help make your life easier, not harder. I know I've seen some stuff on the forums that people aren't super happy with the snippets or something, but I think they just don't understand what they're trying to accomplish. So they're two different things, right? The template is a longer email that's going to still be able to be triggered, and your snippets is for your quick communication with your guests. So, so templates are not going away. Well, short answer to that question: templates are not going away. So, Sherry D says, how do we do the WhatsApp template setup? You don't. Right now, WhatsApp, they have a very stringent way of communicating, I guess. When you start communication with a client, with a guest, you have to use what's called basically an approved conversation starter. That's what they call it, a conversation starter. And so we've done a lot of work to make it, and basically WhatsApp, it can't be marketing related. It can't be this, it can't be that. So we've gone back and forth with them, and we've got a good starter that we believe makes sense, right? So so basically you have to send that starter, and then the conversation's only good for 24 hours. So we're still trying to figure out the way, how do we do triggers so that they only work once the WhatsApp conversation has been started, right? Like if we just allowed you to add templates and triggers like we do today for email and SMS and everything else, half the time they would fail on WhatsApp because you wouldn't have a valid conversation started, right? So templates will come to WhatsApp. WhatsApp just went into wide release a couple weeks ago. So templates will come to WhatsApp, but right now they're not there. So yeah, but this is where snippets will come in. What we really like about WhatsApp is that, especially for international clients, right? We couldn't use SMS. The pricing changes too dramatically from country to country and region to region. We really tested trying to get SMS working over there, but it could be like, oh, this client's in the UK and it's $1 a text. This one's over here and it's 50 cents a text. How do we price it so that it works? We could never really figure that out, a great way to do it, to tell you the truth. So internationally, most people use WhatsApp because it's free and you don't have those SMS costs. So you can now connect to WhatsApp. You can start a conversation and you can chat with them all day long. We just don't have a way to trigger the templates to them yet. So this is where snippets will come into play, though. You can use snippets to talk on WhatsApp. So, all right, channel integrations. Setting parking so it shows correctly in BDC. Analyzer says OR pushes different settings. So yeah, Sherry, I pulled up your account beforehand, and let me just show you what I found. Where did I put that? Oh, here it is. So here's what your quality analyzer is saying. It says parking is enabled, but some details aren't set. So booking.com will receive these defaults. Location equals nearby. Access equals public. Reservation equals not needed. Right? So if you want them to say something rather than these defaults, you need to set them under the accommodations to override. That's what it's basically saying. So let me show you in my demo account here. What you need to do is go to the property, and you would come here and you're going to go to the accommodation section of the property. And when I was in your account, you had street parking checked. That's it. You just have a check. So you say, hey, I have parking, or there's free parking. I think you had street parking, but either one. But what you're going to do is click this pencil for edit amenity details. And here, like I said, the default for location that we were going to send, because you didn't have a set, was nearby. Yours was just set to select location. So you can select, is it on site or is it nearby? Access, is it only guests or does the public have access to that parking? Reservation, do you need a reservation? Is it blah, blah, blah? So these are the items that are set to booking.com. So you just need to come in here and set these things and click save, and that should do the trick for you. All right. So yeah, basically, we try in the listing quality analyzer to point you to the right direction, right? This says set them under accommodations to override. So all you gotta do is click this green, this is just a screenshot, but click accommodations. It should take you right to accommodations for this property. And then you can just set those parking things, right? All right, so that's that. How do I fix locked features on Airbnb? Yeah, so Airbnb has a thing. If you change something on Airbnb, they basically they lock the I had this here, I must have moved, but they lock it from being updated. Their thing is they think, well, if they set it in if they set it directly on the channel, then they must not want the PMS to be able to update it, right? So here's that article on that. Why aren't the updates I made in OwnerRez syncing Airbnb? They're locked. So if you go into your settings, channel management, go to the Airbnb integration, and click check status, that's going to show you exactly which ones are locked. So listing name, in this case, listing name, nickname, description, these are all locked things, right? So it says to unlock them, you're going to open your Airbnb account, go to that specific listing, go to the listing editor and your space. And then you'll click on this little settings gear and it will show you what's locked. And you can just say manage from OwnerRez instead. And that will set them all to be unlocked. So if you need help with that, email us help at. But I mean, if you walk through this here in this should get you through, And this brings me back to, I always like to show in these things, our new Resi support. If I did write locked fields in Airbnb, let's just see what it says, I mean, it brings me to, this is that common issues article that I just showed you, but Resi goes through and it tells you the same thing I just said, right? When you make changes to listing content, such as photos, descriptions, amenities, Airbnb can lock those fields so they're no longer overwritten. To unlock locked fields, log in and follow these things. So once again, Resi's your friend. Ask it the question, and hopefully it gives you a good way to move through all of it. So, all right. Rates and pricing. Can you explain setting up monthly versus weekly rates? Yeah. So we don't set up monthly and weekly rates in OwnerRez per se. Where's my? So we set up nightly rates, right? So everything you do is you're going to set up the nightly rates, right? And that's done here on this rate calendar. There's ways to do it in bulk. If you're using Price Labs, the pricing's going to come in here, but you have a nightly rate set up. So in this case, I'm $100 per night. All right. So for a month, obviously, $3,000 a month might be too much, right? So how you're going to set up your monthly rate or weekly or whatever is through a discount. So, and what you want to create is what's called a length of stay discount. So you would come in here, create a length of stay discount, and you can set up different levels here. So I'm going to say if they're staying for at least 30 nights, let's give them, once again, in my case, it was $3,000. And I'm going to say, well, I think $2,000 is appropriate for the whole month, right? So that's basically a third off. So I could give them 33% off if they're doing 30 nights, right? And that would basically set my monthly rate to $2,000 instead of $3,000. They're really close. Now I want to do a weekly, I can do it in the same discount. I can say if the minimum nights are 7 nights, let's give 10% off, right? So, and then you can add conditions. Maybe I only want this to apply to a certain property. Maybe I only want it to apply to direct booking. So I could set the source is only, my direct booking source, or any custom sources that I've set up, because I might have multiple, websites or whatever. So in this case, I'm setting it up, but it only applies to direct bookings. So that's where your conditions come in. And then, if you wanted to give this its own category, you could. Most people, though, on a discount, just leave it as rent only. It's, you're lowering the rent. So yeah, that's how you set up weekly and monthly, rates basically. When people go to book, they're gonna, put in their dates, and all they see, especially on Airbnb or VRBO or any of the channels, they see a total. They don't see what the nightly rate is or the weekly rate is. So this works very well. So hope that helps. All right, owner statement taxes. Have you figured out a way to show just taxes on rent on owner statements? Um, I'd have to know your exact use case, maybe, and this would be maybe one to write in to help that, and one of our engagement specialists could work through you. But I mean, in the end, your taxes are your taxes. You want to set up, and I would think you would want to display what was collected or not. On your owner statements, you might just show the net booking revenue. So basically, what the rent and everything was before taxes. It really depends. Are you paying the taxes for the owner, or is the owner paying the taxes and you're passing those through to him? So it just depends. I don't know what your use case is. There's various ways people do owner statements. But I mean, in the end, if you wanted to charge a tax that's just on rent, that would be in, when you're creating the tax, you would create whether hotel tax or whatever, put in the descriptions, all of those things. But when you're making your charges too, so let's say your cleaning fee shouldn't apply to this tax, right? There's not a way though to say, hey, make this tax only rent, make this tax everything. So I hear that. Maybe that's what you're talking about. But in surcharges, when you create a surcharge like a cleaning fee, there's this box here. Is this taxable? Should this fee be taxed? And just FYI, in most jurisdictions, if it is a fee that the guest has to pay, they can't opt out of, then it's generally taxable. We just had we had a road show and Avalara was there, and that's the advice they gave too, is, if something is automatic that the guest can't opt out of it, it's most likely taxable. I know some people see like, oh, but there's an accommodations tax and that only applies to rent. I don't know. A lot of times we dig into it more and it's not true. You end up asking the taxing authority, hey, what is the accommodations tax really on? And it's like, it's on anything that the state tax was on. So, I would double check with your taxing authority. Most people that think they have a tax that only applies to rent isn't true. I mean, but that's not 100%. There's Avalar in their presentation also said there's something like 13,000 different tax jurisdictions across just the U.S. So, it's hard to say what does and doesn't apply. One other thing I can point you to is there is something called statement taxes you can do on statements, but this is mainly people in Canada that do that, Mexico. This was a feature that was kind of added for them, but they needed a way to do a tax that applies kind of to the whole statement after the booking. So it's a little different. And we should have an article on statement taxes. Yeah, you just linked that. So you could read about that and see if that's something that applies. The other thing I'll point you to, the last thing, is you can edit your statement view. So if I had a statement view and I needed to show just, I mean, obviously, if you have a tax that's just on rent, what that percentage is, right? So I have a column called rent. I could add a custom column if this is something I just wanted to report. Maybe it's not really coming out of the money, but you wanted to show it to them. You can make a custom column that basically, you would find out what the charge category is for rent, which I think I had up here. Now these are gross minus expenses. So, and I wish this list was more filterable. Product, if you're watching, I would like this to be more easier to find. But anyways, there should be rent only. That's discount rent only. I don't want discount. I want expense. Income category rent only is one. So you can create a custom field that's like, the income rent only times, like maybe I know the tax is 6%. So I could make a column that figures out what that is. If this is just something maybe you're displaying to the owner to say, hey, here's how much this specific tax was, and I'm paying that on your behalf, there is a way to do that as well. But once again, our engagement team works all day long with PMs that are doing using the property management module. So I would recommend writing in help@ownerrez.com. And like I said, each case is kind of unique on that. So there are ways. I don't know what the best way is for you. So just from this one question alone. So Stacia, is there a way to schedule payments when a guest uses PayPal for payment? I mean, yeah, with the new PayPal integration, I mean, it should follow your rules, right? Like, I mean, it should do the first payment and the second payment. The big difference with PayPal, though, is it doesn't just draft your credit card like a credit card schedule does, right? Like the credit card basically says, hey, 7 days prior to booking, I'm going to collect your balance, or 30 days prior, or whatever you have it set to, right? That's a credit card. PayPal, it will say, hey, there's a second payment due 30 days prior to booking. And it will send an email to the guest saying, hey, go make this payment. Because they have to click on it in PayPal and authorize it. PayPal, even though it's connecting to credit cards, isn't a true credit card processor. They collect the funds, they keep them in escrow. You're not merchant of record when you use PayPal, is basically it. So I like PayPal as an option, especially for direct bookings, I guess. But I mean, I don't personally use it. I don't see the negative to using credit cards, because even if you're using PayPal now, it's the business transaction PayPal, you're still getting charged 3%. So you're not saving money by using PayPal over using credit card. So but there should be a way. You should still be able to, and if you're not seeing it, once again, write in to help out. But you should be able to go into a booking. Now, once again, this is my demo account, so it's not going to actually show it. But if you go to transactions, you should be able to go to payments and schedule payment. Now, mine's going to tell me, oh no, I guess I do. Oh, this is the stage, so I didn't think I had a credit card processor hooked up. But anyways, you just put in the dates of when you want to collect it. Oh, no, never mind. It's telling me to put in a credit card. So to schedule the payment, because this booking doesn't have a credit card on file. So yeah, I mean, that might be, if you have PayPal, it might tell you that same thing, that you can't do it. So I'm not 100% sure on that, to tell you the truth. But once again, if you email in help@ownerrez.com, we can definitely see if we can look at your specific account and walk you through it. Yeah, hard for me to do some of these things on my demo account because I don't have PayPal connected. And I see Zach, and I saw these articles earlier when I was getting ready. But yeah, there is a caveat. How to use, if you have both, like let's say Stripe and PayPal connected. There's some important things to know. So check out that article that he put in the chat. All right. Last pre-question you guys asked. We have an hourly event space. In the future, will OR accommodate these? No. I mean, I be as honest as possible. OwnerRez calendars are set up to do nightly rentals. We were built around short-term vacation rentals, and everything we do is nightly. And I know of no plans to change that. I mean, none of the channels we connect to, support hourly rentals. I understand why you want it. I understand it's an event thing and whatever, but your best bet would be to run the, event portion. If you have lodging in connection with the event, obviously we can handle the lodging portion, but the actual rental of the event, I would run through a different app. You might still be able to kind of show some of that data in OwnerRez by sending over an iCal or something. Once again, the iCal is going to block the whole day. So if you wanted to be able to see, hey, I have an event the same day, there might be some value in that. But no, for the most part, if you're doing hourly rentals, you're going to want to find an app that does that. And you know, like we're listed on Capterra. I don't know if you ever looked there. They're a great software review site. So maybe, you know, check that out and see what they have to say. Um, you know, if you go to Capterra, you can search for, you know, hourly event bookings or something. I don't know. And yeah, book and go, event booking engines, you know. So I don't know anything about any of these, but you know, maybe one of these would work for you. We use Calendly internally to book sales calls and stuff like that. I could see you using Calendly and Google Calendar to do it, you know, I mean, but anyways, and Calendly does let you charge for booking. So maybe that's an option for you, but no, I don't foresee OwnerRez getting into the hourly booking space. So, all right. So some things that just hit on coming soon. You know, we're rounding into our fourth quarter here, and fourth quarter we're doing a lot of what we call maintenance debt and internal updates. Still working on features, but I will say maybe in some of these things, some of the coming soon might not be as sexy for just a couple of weeks, because like I said, we're, you know, as we keep adding all these features, it creates little bugs and glitches in the system, you know. So or just things that we haven't touched on in a while that we want to improve and we want to make better. So you know, the coming soon in the next few of these QAs, like I said, might highlight some of those things. So the one that we're really excited about is, you know, our Verbo. I always say it wrong. It's they pronounce it Verbo, not VRBO. But our Verbo API is already one of the best. But under the covers, how it's always worked for the past 10 years or however, was what we call a JSON feed. It's a structured feed that you put everything in OwnerRez, and we send that feed to VRBO constantly, right? The feed's always updated. But you know, Verbo wouldn't necessarily get a notice that it had been updated. They just have to check it periodically. And that's why sometimes you would put in new content and they would only check content maybe once a day, right? So people would be like, man, I updated my description, but it hasn't updated on Verbo yet. It's like, okay, be patient. It will. It just takes time, right? Well, they've changed under the covers to what they call GraphQL, which is just, you know, a different architecture than the JSON was. But the main benefit for everybody is that when you change something, it should be, you know, immediate. Before, you know, obviously availability and rates were immediate. Those were on a different type of architecture, but all the content was this feed. So anyways, that's really exciting. So that's coming. We've already been testing it. Anybody new joining OwnerRez has been, you know, their Verbo accounts have been on this new architecture, but now we got to roll that out to everybody. So it's going to be a big undertaking, but it should, you know, make everything faster once it's rolled out. So that's exciting. Another big exciting thing that just kind of entered testing was reoccurring expenses. So if you look on our feature request form, this is one of our most asked for items, especially by larger PMs. You know, we are already in the booking when you make a cleaning fee, right? Maybe your cleaning fee is $150, but the cleaner actually only charges you $100. So the expense portion is $100. We can already do that today on a booking by booking level, right? Everything can have its own expense. But what we couldn't do is, like, I don't know, I use landscape as an example. So you as a PM pay to have your host property mowed every month, and then you send them a bill. You know, people want to bring that in, so it's just part of the owner statement that look, hey, I made $10,000 for you this month, but here's your booking expenses and here's other expenses. And we've always supported those other expenses, but you had to enter them manually each month. So what a lot of people have been asking for is, hey, can I pre-enter these? Can I set them as recurring, right? So I'm going to add a landscaping thing, and I want that charged every first of the month or whatever. So it's been a long time coming. We're working on adding that. So I'm really excited about that coming out. So those are just a couple of things, kind of whet your appetite of coming soon. I mean, hundreds of other things working on, but these were the two big ones that I pulled for this. So I see Elizabeth says, I hope I can ask a question here. Is there a way to track discounts, codes, and OwnerRez so we know where our traffic is coming from? Yeah, I mean, definitely go back to, I mean, so you don't have to do it necessarily by a discount code. I mean, it just depends on um, what you're trying to accomplish, I guess. I mean, you can do it with a discount code, right? I mean, that's one way to track traffic. So, um, I mean, obviously under discounts, right? Um, but I just say the discount codes aren't super, accurate way to track it because, right, I might create a discount code that I only share on Facebook, let's just say, right? So I can come in here and I can create a promo code and, I can call it, Facebook 2026 or something like that. And I could share that on Facebook and then you would know, hey, if they use this discount, it was a Facebook booking, right? Um, and what you can do to track it too, once I create the promo code, there is now under tags and tag automation, I could make a tag called Facebook discount code or something like that. And then I could use a tag automation that says, I would have that tag. Let's just say this was it. And under conditions, I would say discount code used. I believe there's one status. Am I wrong? Oh, yeah, here it is. So discounts, and then I would pick is one of, no, I don't have that set up, but let's say it was this one, right? So now it would apply that tag whenever this discount was used. So yeah, that's one way of tracking it. My fear, and why I'm saying it's not super accurate, you might originally share that code on Facebook, but then somebody shares that somewhere else or shares it somewhere else. So was Facebook the true source of the booking? I don't know. I mean, that's hard to say, right? Um, but the other thing you can do is create custom links. Doesn't even have to be a discount code, right? So to your hosted website, for instance, and let me see if I can find the article real quick or um, create link to with custom entries. I don't know if that will come up. Oh, it's not custom fields. Shoot, I forget what the article is called. I'd have to, but there is a way to basically make a link. Zach, can you find it real quick? I don't know. Yeah, see, it didn't like that. I'm not calling it the right thing. Um, Shoot, booking widget. Oh, there you go. I found it. Pre-populating widget fields. So, on your, if you're using a hosted site or if you're using widgets, you can send data to it by creating a special link. So like here, I've made a link that says Acme Vacations / properties, and I'm going to pre-fill it with these arrival dates. So when somebody clicks on this, it's already pre-filled. You could also pre-fill it with a discount code like you were talking about. So I could do that. But the other thing, if you didn't want to use discount codes, is you could just pre-fill it with a listing site source, right? So this is kind of an advanced way to do it. But you could pre-fill it with the listing site. And in OwnerRez, you would come here and set up settings, and I come to custom sources, and I would create a custom source, maybe Facebook, or maybe you shared it to your knitting group. I don't know. My sister's in a quilting guild. That's what made me think of it. So maybe she wants to know anybody that came from her quilting guild, right? So it's not even a website. She could create a custom source called Quilting Guild. She could make a card that had this link on it that the listing site is Quilting Guild. And now every booking in OwnerRez, when you look at the booking fields, would say Quilting Guild or whatever that source is right here on your listing site. It would have that. So that's another way that you could do it. So yeah, Brianna's on our product team. She says that you could use reports, line item pivots, which you could. I mean, this is a way to look at it, but I like to see it more in the booking list and other places, so I know right away. But if you do want run this report, once again, this is my demo, doesn't have anything, but you'll see the listing site right here. There'll also any charges or discounts used. So here under discounts, it would show that discount code was used. But once again, I don't like tying into discount codes because that discount code can be used somewhere else. I would use the link method more so, but once again, that's not foolproof either because somebody could share that link somewhere else, right? We're mainly wanting to track when we have content creators or ambassadors that we work with, put it in their content. Yeah, so yeah, if they're giving out a discount code, you could definitely do that. Right, and then you could add, I would add that content creator as a custom source, right? So, and then I would give them a special link that not only does it link to the discount, but it links to the custom field. Custom source. That way, how many bookings are from that custom source. And then each month, you could actually run a report and look at bookings by source, right? So, let's say listing site performance right here. So if I had a bunch of content creators, I could run it and see how many bookings were attributed to that specific creator and send them a report or whatever. And so anyways, yeah. Well, glad you found that helpful, Elizabeth. Cool. All right. Well, I think that's the end of our questions, so I appreciate that. All right. So this was my tips and tricks from last time. I forgot to take that slide out. Well, we've already gone long, but I did want to show you snippets real quick. I promised I'd show you that. So let me just show you that real quick in this account. So, the main point I wanted to make was, so, you might already have templates, right? And you say, man, I don't want to create all these snippets. So first thing just to realize, when, I already have like these 2-channel templates or examples. Get people ask me all the time where my coffee pot is, right? So I've created a short template that says yes, and I'm even using a field code because maybe each property has a different type of coffee maker, right? So when I preview this template, it's saying yes, the property has a standard drip coffee maker, but Bear Meadows, well, it's standard too. Eagles Landing has a K-cup style, right? So the information's different for each one. So this is just an example of how you can use custom fields, in a template, right? So I already have this template, but I want to make it easier. I want to make it a snippet. So basically, I can now go to snippets and I can say, let me import from my templates. Now, maybe these longer ones, these are my Gap Night offer. Here's my invoice. I want these to stay templates. I don't, care to have these longer ones as snippets. So I could basically just say, these are my 2 short ones. These are my FAQ ones. Let me bring these in. And it already says, hey, I'm going to make this FAQ coffee. I'm going to make this trash instructions. And, if you leave it longer like that, that's fine. You could make it shorter too, but I will show you, even if you leave it long, we've made a search so that it will find these. So let's go ahead. I'm going to import those into snippets. So now I have, the FAQ for coffee. I have my trash instructions, and you can go in, you could edit these if you want, but the shortcut is going to be /FAQ coffee. I could make that just /coffee if I wanted to, but this is still, and then you have the option. Now, when you import them, it's automatically going to be shared with your team because we figured, hey, the team had access to all templates before anyways. But if for whatever reason you want this only to be your snippet, you want team members of other snippets, you could uncheck that and not have it shared. But anyways, you see this is what it's going to look like for different, bookings, So anyways, but so that's my snippet. So now when I go into inbox and I go to Bob Jones, well, sorry, let me back up too. So I want to create one more snippet. I imported those, but I want to create a snippet called welcome, or I'll call greeting. I don't know. So maybe when people ask me a common question, I always greet them, with a certain way. So I'm going to say, you know, thanks so much. That is a great question, whatever. I don't want to have to type that every time, so I'm just going to make that little snippet, right? So now in my inbox, um, I can come in here, and if he had asked me, where's the coffee maker or whatever, I can do /greet. Okay, there's my greeting. Thanks so much. That was a great question. And then I can do /coffee. And you see, even though it was /FAQ coffee, I just started typing coffee and it found it, right? So I can say, thanks so much. That's a great question. Yes, the property has, and realize this is showing as the field code, but it's going to, when we send it, it should populate it, I believe, as what it actually is. But we provide filters and a small starter supply of coffee, but you may want to bring your favorite. So, but I know we did have a bug around this, so maybe this is still being worked on. But let me just double check that, because that's embarrassing. But it's supposed to. I know the bug was something in the import process. So let me just double check. If I go into snippets, and I know they're working on that, so that's not going to happen again. Let me just remove this, and I'm going to enter it this way. Property. Oh, yeah, it's still, this bug still exists, Bree. I know you're here. She's on our product team. But it should recognize that. So now that I've updated it, will it work better? Let's just see. Now, and this is staged, so I don't know if this is a problem with our demo server or if it's in production. I see chats coming back and forth, so maybe Bree's updating me on it. Yeah, that's the bug. So anyways, it's in flight. Yeah, this should get addressed. But the point is, right, you can have a snippet that still works with your custom fields. So it's going to be unique. Bob Shore here is staying at Bear Corner. So when the bug's fixed, it will send out the coffee details for Bear Corner. But if I send it to Jordan Allister and I use that same snippet, maybe Woodhaven has a coffee machine in a different spot, and it's going to send that out. So yeah, I thought that bug was addressed, so I apologize. But anyways, the whole point though is now I don't have to. Before with templates, I had to choose. Was it a channel template? I would have all these, or was it an email template or whatever? Snippets just work across no matter what the source was. So that's snippets in a real quick nutshell. I just wanted to show that off a little bit. But I mean, once you get used to them and using them, I think they're going to be so much easier because too, in my demo here, when I apply the template, I only have a couple. But you had to come in and you had to search for it. Before we didn't even have a search, it was just a long thing, But yeah, and here you see the template, it is working properly, the field code. So yeah, so once again, snippets just went wide release, so it's a small little bug, but they will get that fixed. So anyways, that's it in a nutshell. Cool. But the big thing, yeah, it adds to team sharing. Templates didn't necessarily have that. It's what it's going to be good for is things, small details, Wi-Fi details, check-in instructions, parking, pool. Rather than having one big long template that has all these different things, before, like if somebody answered the Wi-Fi details, you'd either have to have a separate template that have that, or you just send them the check-in instructions, which might be really long. Now you can have a snippet just for Wi-Fi, a snippet just for the other details. So anyways. Well, that wraps up another OwnerRez Live. I hope this was helpful. As always, just trying to be more accessible. Once again, we do these every couple of weeks. I think next month we only have one because we have a lot on our calendar next month. We're doing what we call a work in person event. OwnerRez is fully remote, so we're actually all going to meet in one room and basically be able to collaborate on some things for just a week. So that's pretty exciting. And then VRMA, which is the big international show, as well as Favor, which is a big show in Florida. But there's a bunch of shows next month, so that puts me out of pocket a little bit. So we're going to do this once next month. So anyways, if you need help with anything, these are your resources. I always tell people, go to the support docs first. You can ask Resi now. Resi is it's in app in the tool. It's also on the website, but it is totally free to use. It can answer a ton of your questions. Check out videos. Zach, who's been helping you answer these questions in the chat, is always making new videos for us. So I learn better by watching, so definitely check those out. Forums are a great place to ask questions. Maybe it's not just about, a setting or how something, maybe you have a question, a business question. How do other users do this thing? Well, all 8,000 of our users have access to the forums, so ask your question there and maybe you'll get an answer from, one of your another host. Blog, Marketing Works Hard at keeping you up to date there. That's another great place to stay on top of things. These webinars we have all the time. Check them out. And if none of those work, default to the first one, which is email us, help@OwnerRez.com, and we're here for you. So, all right. Thanks so much. Hope everybody has a great Friday, and we will talk to you later. Take care. Bye-bye.